Right now, there's a shift happening that almost no one is talking about. It's not trending on Twitter, it's not on the evening news, and it's not being shouted in protests. But it's real. Men are quietly walking away from women. No angry speeches, no social media rants, no drama. Just silence. And the silence? It speaks louder than anything else. 1. Why men are finally walking away. There comes a moment in a man's life when the light bulb flicks on. He looks around and realizes he's been playing a game where the rules keep changing, and no matter what he does, he can't win. For years, men have been told to be better listeners, better providers, better lovers, better at controlling their emotions. They've stretched themselves thin, trying to meet expectations that only got higher the more they gave. But instead of receiving gratitude or loyalty, many found themselves rewarded with less. Less respect, less love, less stability. And after enough time, that truth starts to sting. It's like putting money into a machine that never pays back. At first, you think maybe you didn't press the right button. Then maybe it's your fault for not having enough coins. But after a while, you step back and admit what's real. The machine is broken. That's what countless men are realizing about modern relationships. They're not giving up because they're weak or scared. They're giving up because they finally see the system isn't working. Take Michael, for example. He worked 2 jobs, brought home a steady paycheck, took his girlfriend on trips, made sure her car ran smoothly. He thought that's what being a good man meant, but the more he gave, the less she appreciated. She compared him to others, nagged about the one thing he didn't do, and took the rest as if it was owed. One night he asked himself, "Why am I working this hard to be invisible?" That was the night he decided to leave. Quietly. No yelling, just done. This is what's happening on a bigger scale. Men are realizing that peace is better than pouring into a broken system. Walking away isn't about revenge, it's about clarity. It's the moment a man says, "I'm done trying to prove myself to someone who doesn't even see my worth." 2. The old deal is broken. Not long ago, the deal between men and women was simple. A man protected, provided, and stayed loyal. In return, he received respect, love, and companionship. Was it perfect? No. But at least both sides knew what they were exchanging. Today, that deal is blurry. Men still provide, still protect, still stay loyal. But the rewards they used to get often don't show up anymore. Instead, many men are treated like their sacrifices are just the starting point. Paying bills? Expected. Working long hours? That's bare minimum. Being faithful? Nothing special. The same qualities that once earned respect are now invisible. And when men feel unseen, they stop offering themselves freely. John, a married man of 15 years, used to leave little notes for his wife, fix things around the house before she even noticed, plan dates. But over time, the response shifted. No more, "Thank you," just silence. When he pulled back and stopped doing those things, she accused him of changing. But the truth was, he hadn't changed. She had stopped noticing. And when men feel unnoticed for too long, walking away becomes the only logical choice. This broken deal is the heart of why so many men are exiting. It's not that they don't value relationships, it's that the cost has gone up while the benefits have gone down. And no smart man invests in something that constantly bleeds him dry. 3. The weight of invisible work. Here's something women often don't realize. Men do a lot of invisible work. They're the ones keeping the car running, fixing the leaky pipe, paying bills on time, calming down arguments before they explode, offering a steady hand when life gets shaky. These things aren't flashy, so they rarely get noticed. But they're the glue that holds daily life together. The problem is, when this work goes unseen, it feels thankless. And when it feels thankless, men stop wanting to do it. Imagine carrying groceries for years and no one even says thanks. Eventually, you put the bags down. That's what men are doing. They're putting the bags down and walking out the door, Take Eric, who spent years managing both the finances and the emotions of his household. Every time his wife was stressed, he was her rock. Every time something broke, he fixed it. But the one time he broke down, he was told to man up. That cut deep. It made him realize he wasn't being valued as a person, only as a function. And that's when his spirit shifted. He no longer wanted to be the silent fixer. He wanted to be seen. And when he wasn't, he left. Invisible work is real work, and when it isn't appreciated, men stop offering it. 4. When affection becomes a weapon. There's a darker side to relationships that men don't always talk about, when love turns into a tool. Affection that once felt genuine becomes something used to control. A hug becomes rare unless you meet her demand. Respect turns into a bargaining chip. Intimacy becomes a reward for obedience. This push and pull wears men down. At first, they play along, thinking it's normal. But over time, they see the pattern. It's not love anymore. It's manipulation. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's when men stop fighting for attention and start walking out the door. Chris had a girlfriend who used affection like a switch. When he bought her something, she lit up. When he didn't, she turned cold. At first, he thought maybe he was failing her. But after years of trying harder, he realized it wasn't about love at all. It was about control. He left, and for the first time in years, he felt lighter. Walking away from weaponized affection isn't weakness. It's strength. It's saying, I won't be someone's puppet anymore. 5. The freedom of financial independence. There's a new kind of freedom men are tasting today, and money has a lot to do with it. Not in the way people usually think. It's not that men can't afford relationships, it's that they no longer need them to build a good life. In the past, men believed marriage and family were the only path to stability. You worked, you provided, and in return, you got a partner to share your life with. But now, men are realizing they can have that same stability without tying themselves to someone who might not value it. They can rent their own place, travel when they want, buy what they want, and enjoy hobbies without asking for permission or explaining themselves. Mark is a great example. He used to believe the dream was a house with a wife and kids. He married young, worked overtime, and handed every paycheck into a shared account. But when his marriage collapsed, he was left with debt, a broken heart, and almost nothing to his name. It felt like all his years of effort were wasted. For a while, he was bitter. But then something changed. He started using his money for himself. He traveled to Mexico, learned photography, and even started his own small business. Suddenly, he realized life didn't require someone else's approval. His money bought him freedom, not a prison. That's what's happening with more men today. They're not walking away from women because they're broke. They're walking away because they can afford to. They see that they can build lives that are just as fulfilling, if not more, without tying their resources to people who might drain them. The irony is that this kind of independence makes men more appealing than ever. A man who lives fully on his own terms, who isn't desperate, who's secure, he stands out. But by then, he often doesn't want the attention anymore, because he knows he doesn't need it. The old belief was, a man's worth is shown by the woman on his arm. The new belief is, a man's worth is shown by how he lives without needing anyone's arm at all. That's the power of financial independence. It shifts men from chasing approval to chasing peace. And once they've felt that freedom, they'll never want to give it up again. 6. Discovering the value of peace. Ask any man who's walked away what he values most now, and he'll probably give the same answer. Peace. It sounds simple, but if you've ever lived in constant drama, you know how rare it feels. Arguments that never end. Silent treatments that stretch for days. The constant guessing game about what she's thinking or feeling. It's exhausting. When men leave, they finally rediscover what peace feels like. Waking up in a quiet house, spending time on hobbies without being interrupted, eating dinner without walking on eggshells. Peace isn't flashy, but it's priceless. Take David. For years, his life was a cycle of fights with his girlfriend. One day, it was about his work schedule. The next day, it was about not texting fast enough. Even when things were good, there was tension. He thought it was normal, but when they finally broke up, he noticed something strange. His shoulders felt lighter. His nights were calmer. For the first time in years, he slept without stress. That peace was addictive. And here's the truth. Once a man gets a taste of real peace, he guards it like treasure. He won't trade it for temporary affection or shallow attention. He knows what's at stake now: his mental health, his focus, his sense of self. Peace becomes the standard, and anything that threatens it is cut off quickly. People often ask why men seem colder after walking away. It's not coldness, it's protection. They know how valuable peace is, and they won't risk it for someone who might bring back chaos. The irony? Peace makes men more attractive. Calm confidence, steady energy, and quiet strength draw people in. But the man isn't chasing anymore. He's already full. He's not looking for someone to fill a hole in his life, because there is no hole. Peace is the new prize. Not money, not attention, not status. Just peace. And once a man realizes that, he'll never trade it again. 7. The power of quiet exits. One of the most interesting parts of this shift is how men are leaving. They're not storming out. They're not making speeches. They're not blasting people on social media. They're leaving quietly, and that silence is powerful. When a man leaves without fanfare, it's harder to dismiss him as bitter or dramatic. He doesn't try to explain himself to someone who never listened. He doesn't fight to be understood. He just stops showing up. That quiet absence speaks volumes. Think of Brian. He spent years trying to explain his feelings to his partner, only to be brushed off. You're overreacting. You're too sensitive. Eventually, he stopped explaining. He started focusing on himself. One day, he packed a bag and left without a word. She didn't even realize he was serious until he was already gone. His silence said what his words never could. I'm done. This kind of exit is harder to manipulate. You can argue with someone's words, but you can't argue with their absence. Silence leaves space. And in that space, the other person finally feels the weight of what's missing. Quiet exits also protect men. They don't drain themselves with endless fights or explanations. They just reclaim their energy and walk away. And once they do, they rarely go back. Because they've learned something important. Peace doesn't need to be explained. It just needs to be protected. 8. A cultural awakening. What's happening isn't just about individual relationships. It's a cultural awakening. Men everywhere are starting to see patterns they didn't notice before. They're realizing that modern dating isn't built for long-term stability. Loyalty feels optional. Commitment feels temporary. And social media has turned relationships into performances, where outside validation matters more than genuine connection. This awareness changes everything. Once a man sees the pattern, he can't unsee it. He notices how often affection is conditional, how quickly love turns into criticism, how easily one argument can erase years of loyalty. And he realizes no matter how much he gives, he's always one emotional whim away from being replaced. This realization makes men invest differently. Instead of pouring themselves into unstable relationships, they put their energy into things no one can take: skills, health, money, peace of mind. These investments compound over time. They grow stronger, freer, and harder to control. And here's the bigger shift. Men are no longer ashamed to choose themselves. For years, society called that selfish. Now, men see it as survival. Choosing yourself doesn't mean hating women. It means refusing to sacrifice your happiness for someone who doesn't value it. This awakening isn't a loud revolution, it's quiet. It's men slowly stepping back one by one until the dating pool looks emptier. And when women look around and wonder, Where have all the good men gone? The answer is simple. They stopped playing. 9. The paradox of attraction. Here's the paradox. The moment men stop chasing, they become more attractive. It sounds unfair, but it's true. When a man doesn't need validation, when he isn't desperate, when he's grounded in his own purpose, he stands out. People want what's rare, and calm confidence is rare. Take Alex. For years, he chased women. He overtexted, bent his schedule, tried too hard, and it never worked. But when he finally stopped caring and focused on himself, hitting the gym, starting a side business, building his own life, something shifted. Suddenly, women noticed him. Not because he was trying, but because he wasn't. This is the paradox. The less you need, the more attractive you become. But here's the twist. By the time men reach this point, they often don't want the attention anymore. They've seen too much, lost too much, and realized they're happier without the constant struggle. This doesn't mean men swear off women forever. It means they become selective. They're no longer interested in shallow attention. They want peace, respect, and genuine connection, or nothing at all. And that makes them harder to reach. The paradox is painful for some women because they're used to being chased. When the chasing stops, it feels like loss. But for men, it feels like freedom. 10. The dark truth. So here it is, the dark truth. Men aren't walking away to punish women. They're walking away because they finally understand their worth. They see that their time, energy, and peace are too valuable to keep pouring into something that doesn't give back. They're not bitter. They're not broken. They're clear, and clarity is powerful. Once a man sees how much of his life has been wasted on proving himself to someone who never appreciated it, he refuses to go back. He learns the most important lesson of all. Peace is priceless. Men are not disappearing. They're in gyms. They're building businesses. They're learning skills. They're traveling. They're living. They're no longer chasing validation from women who think they're replaceable. Instead, they're chasing purpose. And in chasing purpose, they become stronger, calmer, more magnetic than ever. But here's the catch. They don't need what they used to chase. And that's what changes everything. For women, this shift is jarring. The attention they thought would always be there starts to fade. The men who used to bend over backward no longer show up. The silence becomes loud, and only then do they realize what's missing. The steady presence, the quiet stability, the love they once took for granted. But by then, it's too late. Because once a man has tasted freedom, he rarely looks back. Not out of hate, but out of self-respect. That's the dark truth. Men are walking away because they finally understand their value. And once they do, the chapter is closed. So here's the truth. Men aren't walking away to punish anyone. They're walking away to protect their peace. And once they taste that freedom, they don't look back. If this spoke to you, hit that like button, subscribe to Psychology Insight, and share your story in the comments. Have you walked away quietly, or have you noticed men around you doing the same? Let's talk about it.